So it's going to be about my journey to from Elasticsearch to Opensearch. My name is Carlo Smouter. I am a backend developer at Tikal. Originally, I'm from the Netherlands. I work a lot with Golang. In the past, I used to work with Python. I still script a bit with it.
Carlo?
Yeah.
Put the microphone more closer.
Like a rapper. I work with data pipelines on and off. Sometimes I do other stuff. Sometimes I break them. So about a year ago, I was asked to move some existing Elasticsearch to Opensearch and OpenDistro as well. But that's another story. And I discovered some interesting things along the way, because when you move to a new ecosystem, you need to understand what happened. So I'm going to talk about the story of an open source robbery. Then I'm going to talk a bit about the differences, some flaws with Opensearch. And at the end, I'm going to summarize again why you should use Opensearch. So let's start about the robbery. So it all started in the beginning with Elasticsearch, which was licensed under the Apache 2.0 license. They had this great idea that they let the community develop together with them the product. They had some proprietary components called XPack. So let's take a look into this license. What does it mean? Basically, it allows you to modify and distribute to third parties, distribute commercially as well, important point. So what did Amazon do? They released Amazon Elasticsearch Service, basically a SaaS offering of Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch at the same time, they were offering the cloud solution. So they were competing. To Elasticsearch, this felt a bit like a robbery to them. But are they really the bad guys? Basically, they're not the bad guys, because according to the Apache 2.0 license, everything they did is legal. To make things worse, they started to fork it as well. Took out all the some of the XPack stuff they did themselves and made as open source plugins. And also, one of the reasons that Amazon stated to fork it is that too much proprietary code made it into the repository. So after much contemplation, Elasticsearch said, we have to make an incredibly hard decision. So they threw the license into the trash. They came up with another license, the Elastic license. But guess what? You can no longer offer Elasticsearch in Kibana as a SaaS offering. So what did Amazon have to do? Their fork, OpenDistro, became Opensearch. They had to rename it, take out all the branding, and make it their own. As a consequence of this open source robbery, some other players in the market, Redis, MongoDB, they had to change the licenses as well. So there were some consequences to all of this. But why was nobody thinking about this? I mean, it was obvious what's going to happen under this license. Then what happened? Elasticsearch got more upset because Opensearch was not going away. Their SaaS offering was not going away. So they made all their products wiring compatible, and the open source community got a bit upset. Amazon also had to fork all the client libraries in order to make it work with Opensearch. and Elasticsearch got hardwired into their client libraries. Let's say you want to use Logstash now. You cannot do it anymore directly. But what did Amazon do? Well, you can still have a plugin, totally legal. And Logstash still is a patch 2.0 license, so it's still going to be flexible this way. But probably not until Amazon figures out how to monetize Logstash. Let's look at some of the differences. So now that we have this fork, Opensearch. By the way, it was forked at 7.10, which is a while ago, but we'll look into it. So Elasticsearch became Opensearch, Kibana became dashboards, Opensearch dashboards. Some of the features, mainly for me, so I have to explain a little bit. So I mostly ingest firewall events for my project. So I'm going to list the most important ones, most important features that I had to move from Elasticsearch to Opensearch. Policy management. You can write a policy every 20 gigabytes. I want my index to roll over, have a new one, move the old index to a cold node, maybe delete it afterwards, make a snapshot, whatever. That's the policy manager. So it exists both on Elasticsearch and Opensearch. Snapshot management exists on both of them. Ingest pipelines, meaning it's like a Logstash inside Elasticsearch and Opensearch. For this, you need a special node, an ingest node. If you have that node, you can use the ingest pipelines, and you can write in painless script. It's a scripting language embedded. You can say, manipulate my document before it hits the index. It's quite useful, and it still exists in both. You have multi-tenancy. Create ESL, very handy. Document level security. But here's a little problem. The dashboard API. So what does it mean? So dashboards, think Kibana, dashboards in Opensearch. There's a concept of saved objects. So you have like a search that you're doing on an index. You want to save it. You want to use it in a dashboard. You have a dashboard that you want to save. That's a saved object. You have index pattern for your tenants. That's a saved object. Elastic has an official API for this. Opensearch does not. So I had to reverse engineer it from the front end. It's very fragile because every time they release a new version, it can deprecate. It happened, so I had to write integration tests for it. Then there's an odd thing about the documentation. The Elasticsearch documentation is much better. So, but you can still go back to the 7.10 documentation. So, for example, ingest pipelines. The painless scripting is only documented in Elasticsearch documentation. So you just occasionally go back and forth to the documentation to figure out how can I properly use this feature. It's a bit of a downside. And then there is this thing, so Elastic Common Schema, it helps you to normalize. It's basically a mapping with predefined fields to really normalize certain events. So in case of firewall events, it's really nice, but Elasticsearch has more field types and Opensearch has less. So I had to take this repository that contains the mapping and convert the field types. So it's okay, it's doable. So let's look at some flaws that I found in Opensearch in the year that I've been using it. So there's a problem with the index state management. And again, this is like you write policies, I want to shrink shards, roll over an index, move it to a different node, delete, notify, a lot of things possible in theory. But as you can see in the screenshot, this is a screenshot from that manager. It says action time out. But when you click on it, it doesn't say anything. They are improving this in 2.4, and we're currently trying to move to that because we want to understand what's going on. Some other things with this, like there's no simulator for your policies. You have to basically simulate it yourself by, let's say, if your condition for your policy is 20 gigabytes, well, you're not going to write 20 gigabytes to an index to simulate it. You're just going to say, okay, I want to let it roll over every 3 documents. It's not the best. But it's probably like this as well in Elasticsearch. I didn't check. And also in the past, you couldn't shrink shards with your policies. A bit odd. But now it's in. So why should you use Opensearch? Well, just to summarize it, it's very simple. So you want to distribute it to customers. No, not with Elasticsearch. It's going to cost you. With Opensearch, yes. You want to use it internally? It's fine with Elasticsearch. Opensearch, of course. But is it moral? Was this the moral robbery that happened? Well, it's not moral for your wallet to use Elasticsearch the way I want to use it. But think about it yourself. Was it good what they did? I think they didn't do anything wrong because the license, I mean, they had all the freedom to do what they did. It's still good to keep in mind. I also want to say that we're hiring Tikal. And I want to move some questions. The question is if there's cost differences. I'm not a DevOps guy, so I'm not also in charge of the bills, but they both have SaaS solutions that you can use. We are using it on Kubernetes, but I really cannot accurately answer because I'm not really, I'm more using it as a developer. Allegedly, the Opensearch community has a better forum and replies faster. The question is if Opensearch is doing anything better. In my opinion, so it's still open source. So it's still you can use it both internally and distribute it around. So because of the license, for me that's what's better. So the second question is how long did it take them to do the transition, the R&D team? So I think about a year, yes. But before that there was open distro, so it wasn't that much of a deal. But if you look into the codes, like they really had to take out all the branding. The question, aside from the licensing, is there any other advantages to use it? No, not that I know of. No. What do I personally prefer? I like them both, really. It's you know, I can still use Logstash with Opensearch. I can use it also with Elasticsearch. It's just that we decided to move everything into one bucket. So we don't want to also maintain Elasticsearch and Opensearch at the same time. The question is, what do we use it for? So I have this one project where we have customers that have firewalls, and they have they're legally obliged to save this, to store it somewhere. So, and they want to make it searchable. So we use Logstash, and we send it over, and not directly, of course. Then we embed the dashboard into our UI. And we use some of the security plugin features, for example, to document level security. So we're using a Jode, and we're injecting the Jode like a customer ID. And based on this, we can do on a document level per tenant, say, okay, you can only see your own documents. So we can all be in the same index as well. Okay, that's it.